Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this is the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and today I'm going to find out if it's as good as the Ioniq 5, which I like a lot. Okay, so let's start at the front, where I would like to just generally talk about the styling of this car. I like it. I know some people don't, but I do. So this will reflect throughout this video. I like the pixel lights. You'll notice there's 6 of them in various different parts of this car. 6 is the number of this car. There are 6 little squares around here. There are more squares hidden around the car as well. You'll also probably notice just how low this front bit of the car is. That's because it's very aerodynamic to try and eke out all of those electric miles. This is actually the most aerodynamic car in class, so it's got little things like these flaps, which at the minute are closed for aero reasons but can go like something from Thunderbirds, and then cool batteries and all of that stuff. You've got air channels that are making it as efficient as possible. Basically, it's got many air channels for making sure that it is as aerodynamic as possible. And well done, Hyundai, you've succeeded. And just before we move on to the side, I want to tell you that there is a fruit or a frunk under this bonnet, but on this all-wheel drive version it's only 12 litres, so it's basically pointless. If you get the rear-wheel drive car, then it's something like 40 litres, so it's actually slightly useful. But what we'll do is move on to the side, because I want to talk streamliner. That is the tagline for this car, and as you can see, it's got that extremely aerodynamic shape going on there. But first, let's talk about these 20-inch wheels, which look very lovely, but we have known them to be susceptible to getting punctures, and these tyres are not exactly the easiest to find, so that's something to bear in mind. Let's talk about this. These are camera mirrors. They are an option. You do not have to have them. This part looks excellent. The inner bit looks like something from the original Star Wars. It's fantastic. I like it. It lights up very pretty. But I'll talk more about it when we get inside. I'm not 100% convinced that it's the best option to go for. You will notice that the door handles are flush to the car. Again, aerodynamics. And then when we get to the charging port here at the back, you'll see at the push of a button, which has 6 pixels on it, by the way, you will see you have your charger, which you can charge up to 350 kilowatts. Because it's got 800 volt architecture, you also just press a button to close it up. Now, same as the Ioniq 5, this car has the ability to do vehicle to load, i.e. you can just plug something into the car and charge it up. Laptop, bouncy castle, guitar. We've done that previously, but there you go, that's something to note there. But at the back is where I think this car looks its best, because there is more than a whiff. It stinks of 1980s Porsche / Saab. You've got, look, 2 spoilers on your car. So you've got this upper whale tail and then lower duck tail. More aero stuff going on here, obviously, but this is quite cool, and I think that it looks really good. I also like the light bar going the full width of the back of the car, and you'll notice that it has pixel lights in it, and that all lights up. Lower down on either side, you've got these reflectors that are in either corner, and they're sort of like reminding me of original overbumpers on like 1950s American cars. There's a lot of interesting styling going on here. I really like it. What I will do is open up the boot, which is a button with 6 pixels on it. Are you noticing a theme? And here you can see the boot. 401 litres of space, which does mean that it's smaller than its rivals, and apart from the Model 3, its rivals have hatchback boots. This is quite a usable size and space, but it's not going to be as practical as the Polestar 2, for example, where it opens all the way. But you can see you can slide things pretty much in the back of the seats, and if I pull these little levers on either side, I can detach those seats, but it doesn't fold them down. You have to go and physically do that yourself, but at least you don't have to do stuff. Anyway, under the boot floor is just your tyre mobility kit. There isn't really any room for anything else. But how are the back seats? Okay, so here I am in the back seats of the Ioniq 6, and first off, let's talk about room. The Ioniq 6 does suffer from that same thing that basically every other electric car does, which is it's got quite a raised floor, so your feet feel quite high, and then that means that your legs are at a bit of a funny angle if you're tall, and it means that I can't put my feet under the seats in front. This seat is set up in my driver's position. For reference, I am 6'2" or 188 centimeters tall. As you can see, I've got absolutely loads of knee room, which is exactly the same as in the Ioniq 5. It's like being in the back of a limousine. The difference between the 6 and the 5 is in the 5 I've got plenty of headroom. In the 6, thanks to its streamliner shape, I have to do this if I want some headroom, which is a little bit of a compromise, but realistically all of this car's rivals are the same as well. I don't really fit in the back of many saloons because of the sloping roofline. In terms of things that I have back here, I've got a centre armrest with 2 cup holders in it. I've got down here another door pocket, but it isn't actually big enough for a bottle of water. I've got my electronic window controls on the door. I've also got 2 staged heated seats back here, and you do have mood lighting back here with that rippled effect on the door as well. On the backs of the seats, I have nets on both sides. I've got 2 USB-Cs in the middle there and the air vents, but no ability to control the temperature from back here. You just have to have whatever's up front. But I do like the design in here. It's not too compromised given how aerodynamic this car is. But yeah, that's basically it for the back. So let's jump up front and see what's going on up there. Okay, so now we're up front in the Ioniq 6, and this is very, very similar in layout to the Ioniq 5, which I absolutely love. So, a couple of different things. The instrument binnacle and the central screen have a more rounded edge to them. Now that is a plus and a minus, because plus wise I think it looks a little bit better, but minus wise, whatever this material, this shiny silver plastic surround is, reflects into the windscreen regardless of any lighting condition changes. I can always see it in the windscreen, so it's a little bit annoying, but the rest of this cabin is absolutely fantastic. Everything feels really nice and premium, even though a lot of this cabin has recycled elements in it. I know there's like recaptured fishing nets and lots of various different materials used throughout this cabin to make sure it is as eco-friendly as possible. But you've got this nice 2-spoke steering wheel. You've got the 4 dots that illuminate on the center of it. The 4 dots refer to the Morse code for the letter H. On your steering wheel, you've got controls for your phone and volume and that stuff, and then your driver aids, such as you keeping it in a lane on the motorway, your adaptive cruise control, speed limit setting, all of that stuff on this side. And then you've got a drive mode selector for eco, normal and sport. What I will say is all of the things that you touch in this car, all the touch points are absolutely amazingly, brilliantly decided upon by Hyundai. Your drive selector, this is a little bit weird because it's on a stalk off the steering column, but again, the bit that you twist to go into drive, neutral and reverse is this lovely knurled bit of metal. A lot of metal touches going on the end of like the indicator stalk and the wiper stalk. It's just these little bits that add up to make the whole experience a little bit more luxurious. These are two 12.3 inch screens that you've got, one for your driver information, one for connecting up your phone to, and then you do have a separate layer down here for controlling the climate controls, which is good and bad. It's good because at least it's not all in the screen and you still do have the option to fiddle around with the temperatures by pressing not a real button, but at least some sort of button. One issue I do have though is that if I want to put my heated seat on or the heated steering wheel on, I have to press this button and then there's a little bit of a delay and then the screen, and then I've got to do it with my finger here. And if you're driving along and you're trying to do that, that's not particularly good. So let's try and, it's best to do these things before you set off, I would suggest. Further down, you've got a Qi charger here for connecting your phone up to. You can charge it and you can plug it into the USB to do your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You've got cup holders, two here in the center, big enough for a bottle of water and a coffee. However, the bottle of water will not go in these door pockets because they're not very big. So that's something to bear in mind. All of your window and door controls are here in the center because on the actual doors themselves, because it's got this weird design on it, I actually quite like it. It's very minimalist. All you've basically got on the door is the door handle and your memory seat controls. You've got this huge speaker for your Bose sound system, and then this all lights up at night. It's got fantastic mood lighting and it ripples off these little indents in the door, and then your door pockets actually look translucent when they're lit up. It's fantastic. I'll insert a clip of what that looks like. Down here you've got a very big sort of bin to just chuck stuff in, and I thought, well, this is a bit pointless, but it's not. I've had this car for a week, I've been to the shops. If you're just buying a few items, most of it fits in this bin, so you don't have to like put it in the footwell and take up space or try and chuck it in the back and it slides around. Because it's got these little gates on it, it doesn't fly around and it's rubberized, so everything sticks where it's supposed to be. You do have a cubby under this armrest with some more USB-Cs in there for plugging stuff in, and you don't have a glove box, but you do have a glove drawer, so it pulls out towards you. That's where you keep the manual. But yeah, interesting choice, same as it was on the Ioniq 5, and I like that. Now, let's get to the elephant in the room, because I haven't mentioned these yet. And that's because I don't like them. The camera mirrors. Now, I drove one briefly at Millbrook Proving Grounds for about 15 minutes, and I thought they were fine there. However, I've lived with this car for a week and I think there are a couple of problems with the camera mirrors. One is I don't think that they're in the right place. The angles aren't quite right. Two, I think you've got a much smaller field of view using these than you do just a traditional mirror. And three, for parking, they're not the best basically. At no point in this week that I've had it have I gone, do you know what, this is better than a mirror. So I would recommend you save your money and just get the normal mirrors. That is a buckle up top tip for you there. But that's basically all there is to talk about in the front up here, so let's go out and drive it. The first thing to note is that this is different than the Ioniq 5 because it's a lot more sporty. It's lower to the ground. You do still sit quite high, unusually high I'd say for a saloon car, but the suspension is harder, firmer, more set up for cornering. That Ioniq 5 is just so comfortable. This is still comfortable, it's just a bit more hard-edged. In terms of the batteries and power and stuff you can get in this model, you have one battery size to choose from in this country, which is 77.4 kilowatt hours, and you can either pick rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, like this model. The rear-wheel drive car has 229 PS, which means it can go from 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds and onto a top speed of 115 miles an hour. And the all-wheel drive model, this one, because you've got motors on both axles, has 325 PS. And that means 0 to 60 is capable in just 5.1 seconds, so it's a lot quicker for this all-wheel drive model. Top speed is still 115 miles an hour. That doesn't change between cars. Something that does subtly change is the WLTP mileage. So the max you can get is on the rear-wheel drive model, that's 338 miles, or this all-wheel drive car is 320-ish miles. So a little bit less for going for the all-wheel drive, but a lot more power in return. So you can make that trade-off based on what you need. As I've said, the mirrors, I wouldn't bother optioning for the whatever it is 1.5 miles of extra range that you're going to get from having slightly more aerodynamic not mirrors. I think that as I said, at no point while I've been driving it this week have I thought, yes, they're better than normal mirrors. So in my opinion, don't bother with them. It's a non. You just don't need to select that option unless you really care about your gadgets. In terms of how this car handles, I've already spoken about how the suspension is firmer. It handles very nicely. It's very predictable. The all-wheel drive is very nice in conditions such as we've been having this week, which is to say rainy and stormy and windy and horrible. Something that I will mention is that the steering is never heavy. In Eco, it's extremely light, very light. Some of the lightest steering I've used. And I prefer to have my steering a little bit heavier. If you want to do that, then you can switch out of Eco and go into normal or sport, and then it does become heavier, but it does compromise your range because it's set itself up to be as sporty as possible, and that does affect that. Now that I'm in sport, you've got that electric instantaneous torque that is very exciting. It's not the quickest electric car out there, and nor should it be. It's not trying to be, but I don't see why you would need it to be any more powerful than that, really, day to day. That's enough to smash your head into the headrest. That should be it. In terms of miles per kilowatt, I don't have a very... I'm not a sensible driver, so I haven't been getting much more than 3.5 miles per kilowatt, but I know because when it was dropped off to me that it had averaged over 4.5 miles per kilowatt, which is absolutely fantastic. Anything above 4 is really good. So if you're a sensible driver and you don't drive everywhere like your pants are on fire like I do, then you're going to get pretty decent mileage out of this car. In terms of general visibility, apart from the mirrors, you can't see an awful lot out of the back because you do have the double spoiler situation going on, and because sort of the back windows are very small, if you were wanting to pull out of a junction you might be a little bit compromised there. The main problem for me is if you're pulling out of a junction onto a main road where you need to use the mirrors are not quite in the right place for that, so you find yourself doing that a lot to look around the B pillar. Brakes wise, you've got 3 stages of regenerative braking which you can use and control by using the paddles on the back of the steering wheel. You can have it in a 4th setting if you press and hold, which is max, which is what Hyundai call I-pedal. So when you lift off there, the car does slow down dramatically and will come to a complete stop, as I am doing now. But you have to press and hold it. It wouldn't do it in normal level 3. And then you set back off again. So I usually have electric cars in their full level of regen, which I do in this because I think it just makes more sense, and I think it's more natural in an electric car. The brake pedal feels more natural when you've got the maximum regen on. That's just personal preference. But yeah, I very much enjoy driving this car. It's an absolute doddle on motorways because you can just set the adaptive cruise control and it'll keep you in lane. So you've got all of that great technology. Another thing is that I love that Hyundais and Kias do this is when you indicate, you get a blind spot camera display in your driver's instrument cluster so you can see if there's something in your blind spot. It's a great feature to have. I don't know why everyone doesn't do it. But yeah, that's the Ioniq 6. So I will head back and I will do a conclusion for you. Okay, so that is the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and to answer my question at the start of the video, no. I just like the Ioniq 5 more. It's more my style. I just want a big, comfortable blancmange of an electric car. If I was going to have an electric car, it isn't going to be the driver-focused car in my imaginary garage. I would have something that was petrol with a manual gearbox. So, for me, as much as I like this, the 5 is better. Suits my lifestyle more. I'm a very relaxed man. In terms of the cars that it compares with, the BMW i4, I dislike for how it looks. The Tesla Model 3 is probably better tech-wise, but I think this looks better. And the Polestar 2 is a little bit awkward looking. And this is more of a traditional saloon, that's trying to be both an SUV and a saloon, and I disagree with that. So, I would pick this out of its class of car. Take from that what you will. Probably more about me than the car. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. Comment down below if you've got something to say. But most importantly, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we make an upload. If you want to support us, you can do so by buying some merch, which I'm supporting under this. Oh, hello. And if you want to support us in a different way, we have channel memberships where we've got many videos that are probably worth your time. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.